Hey everybody, Graham here from therecordingrevolution.com with another 5 minutes to a better mix tutorial where we're looking at 31 mixing tips in 31 days. And today I've got a tip for you on how to create some depth in your mix using EQ. Okay, so depth is sort of that three-dimensional element, right? We want to create space in our mix for everything, and a lot of times we try to create depth, meaning some tracks sound farther away in the mix than others, some tracks sound more close up and right up front than others, and a lot of times we'll use things like reverbs and delays to accomplish this. Well, another way to create perceived depth is simply to affect the EQ of certain tracks, and I'll show you what I mean. Our ears tend to perceive tracks that have a lot of high frequency information as being closer to the listener. So let's say, for example, a vocal that is really breathy and has a lot of high frequency information in it, it'll sound right up front to the listener. That's why that's really popular in pop and rock music. But something that has a lot of the high frequencies carved out, maybe with a low pass filter, it'll sound a little more muffled, and our ears perceive that as being a little bit further away. We don't pick up on it as much, and so it creates a little bit of depth. So if there are instruments or certain tracks or certain parts of a track that you would like to not be as prominent, maybe it's playing alongside something else, but you want to separate it from the more important track in the moment, use some EQ to carve out some of the high end and let it sit back in the mix just a hair. Let me show you an example of how you could do that. Here's a song where I've got a pre-chorus and the vocal is still going to be the important part, right? I don't want to dominate the vocal, but there is a guitar riff that comes in that adds a different melody tweak to the song, as it were, but I don't want it to take over the vocal. So take a listen to it as is. All right, so the guitar part I'm listening to is right here. All right, so it's a nice little part, but I don't want it to take over from the melody. And you could just turn it down a little bit, but then you may not get all of the parts. So if it's at a good volume that you hear it, but you just want it to sit back in the mix just a hair, then go ahead and grab a simple one-band EQ or on your available EQ that you're already using and engage a low-pass filter, okay? This is the opposite of a high-pass filter. The low-pass filter allows the lows to pass through unaffected, and therefore it carves out the high-frequency stuff. So what I'm going to do here is simply, in context with the mix, dial this down till it starts to disappear a little bit in the mix without being completely muffled. Listen to it again. All right, now let me bypass it and listen to what it sounded like before the EQ. Now it's pretty subtle. Again, you're going to hear me say that a lot, subtle. But you can tell that it disappears just a little bit. We've carved out everything pretty much above 2K on this guitar part. So by itself, this is what it was like. So it's just a little more muffled by itself, but in the mix, the guitar is still as loud as it was, but it just moves back from the listener a hair, and it allows it to be audible, but allows what's most important in this segment, which is the lead vocal, to stay close and up front. So let's hear that again. Versus Just a little tweak, all right? That might help you get some depth in your mixes. So instead of always jumping to a reverb to create depth, this is a great way to create depth on top of the reverb. Just a little bit of EQ. Hope that helps, guys. Again, this is Graham at therecordingrevolution.com with 5 minutes to a better mix. We'll see you on the next video.